Hi, my name is Skylar, and this was never supposed to be my story. I was the girl they dressed up and paraded like bait, a placeholder, a fake. He was supposed to fall for someone else. This is the story of how a decoy became the only thing that mattered. You've been warned. Let's begin. They gave me a dress I would never afford, heels I couldn't walk in, and a name that wasn't mine. Skylar Farmer, they said, would never be enough to draw Frankco Bertonelli's eye, so I became something louder, brighter, shinier, a perfectly packaged threat in lipstick and couture. Not to him, never to him, to them, the ones watching, the ones he wanted distracted. I was hired to be visible, that was all, a decoy, a placeholder, flashy bait to pull attention off the real target. I knew the rules. Smile, touch his arm, pretend I belonged, let the world assume he'd chosen me. He hadn't. The first time I saw Frankco Bertonelli, he didn't look at me like a man noticing bait. He looked at me like I'd said something untrue before my mouth even moved. You're late. His voice was ice. His eyes were worse. Sharp, gray, and surgical. Traffic, I said. My tone was practiced, flirtatious, just enough to charm. Lie, he answered, already walking. Try again. I blinked, heels clicking behind him. Excuse me? You're not nervous, he said. You're stalling. Probably went to the wrong hotel first, Livlay. You're wearing the name tag they gave you, but it's crooked. You adjusted it in the elevator. I swallowed. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. I don't care if you're late, he said, but I don't like being lied to. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to ignore me. Let me play my part, draped on his arm like decoration. He was the heir to the Bertonelli empire, after all. Stoic, untouchable, heir to a throne built on blood and contracts. Men like him didn't notice girls like me, especially not when I was meant to be the stand-in. The woman he was actually supposed to notice tonight was waiting inside, sweet, demure, untouchably perfect, the kind of girl who could secure an alliance. I was here, so she didn't have to be. And yet, his hand was on the small of my back before I could think, not soft, not guiding, controlling. Stay close, he said. I nodded, breath-catching. The room we entered was gold-lit and full of teeth. Every guest carried a smile like a weapon. I recognized the senator, the importer, the Bratva son pretending not to be Bratva. Eyes turned, conversations paused, and Frankco Bertonelli moved through them like a king with his queen on his arm. Only I wasn't a queen. I was a diversion. You should eat something, he murmured. You look pale. I'm not hungry. He stopped walking. So did I, his head tilted slightly. Try again. My lips parted, unsure. I didn't think I'd be on your arm this much. I didn't want to get in the way. His expression didn't change. But I saw it, the faintest flicker of something in his eyes. Annoyance? No, recognition. You were put here to be in the way, he said, low and direct. Don't forget that. He didn't mean it cruelly, not exactly. But it cut anyway. I looked away. I haven't forgotten anything. I doubt that. His hand moved, from my lower back to my waist, just enough pressure to feel the claim, just enough heat to make me wish it was real. My breath hitched. You're doing well, he said. Too well. That's the problem. I blinked. What does that mean? It means, he said smoothly, they're watching you instead of her. That makes you the problem I have to protect. My stomach turned. That's not how it was supposed to go. No, he said, but here we are. A waiter passed with champagne. Frankco plucked one flute for me, then another for himself. He didn't drink. Neither did I. We were a display, a lie. Except the hand at my waist wasn't lying. Neither was the heat of it. I turned toward him. You don't have to play it this close. I'm not playing. His words stopped me. So, did the way he looked at me then? Not like I was fake. Not like I was a tool or a trap or a carefully crafted illusion. He looked at me like he saw me. Like I mattered. I didn't know what to do with that. So I smiled, lifted the champagne, whispered something funny just loud enough for the nearest ears to catch. He smirked, played along, but the warning was in his grip. Tonight, I was the girl he chose in public. Tomorrow, someone would try to test if that choice was real. And Frankco Bertonelli would make sure they regretted it, even if I didn't understand why. The first time Frankco stepped in front of me, I thought it was a coincidence. The second time, I realized he was watching everything. We were halfway through the second course at the Gualtieri dinner, some truffle-smeared nonsense that tasted like expensive paper, when it happened. I laughed at something a man across the table said, lightly. Politely. Not even flirtatiously. Franco's hand left the table. He didn't speak, didn't glare, just shifted his chair an inch closer to mine. A tiny movement, but deliberate, possessive, a warning. I felt it like static under my skin. I didn't say anything, I whispered behind my wine glass. His voice was low. You smiled too much. I blinked at him. That's what I'm here to do. You're here to distract, not invite. That stung. Is there a difference? His eyes slid toward mine. Cold. Measuring. There's a difference between being seen and being touched. The implication hit like a punch. I sat still. The man across the table, Gualtieri's cousin or something equally dangerous, lifted his glass again. You're very charming, miss. Frankco beat me to it. She's taken. I froze. So did the man. Then he smirked. My mistake. Frankco didn't smirk back. He simply lifted his own glass, but didn't drink. His hand came down on my thigh under the table. Not soft, not suggestive. Just enough to let me know I wasn't invisible anymore. And if I moved wrong, someone was going to get hurt. After dinner, the political masks came off. The real players circled, tight conversations behind cigar smoke and brandy. Women were mostly accessories here, but I didn't move far. I wasn't allowed to. Frankco kept me close, too close, like I was real. You didn't need to say that, I said softly as we stepped out onto the balcony, the city lights bruising the sky below us. He didn't look at me. Say what? That I was taken. You are. I crossed my arms. No, I'm not. I'm part of a setup. You were supposed to pretend, not act like I'm... He turned to me so fast I forgot how to breathe. Like you're mine? He said, voice low and sharp. They don't know the difference, and right now that's the only thing keeping them from trying to test the bait. I flinched. Thanks for the reminder. You needed it. I hated how steady he was, how unaffected, like this whole game was just another move in a 100-year-old war. Why are you so good at this? I whispered. His eyes met mine. Because I was raised for it. I let that settle between us. Heavy. And then I asked the question I'd been circling since the moment his hand touched my back in the lobby. Do you enjoy it? A pause. Then, no. He said it like a fact, not a confession. I don't believe you. That's your problem, he said. Not mine. I looked away. Tried to calm my racing thoughts. Tried not to notice how the night air smelled like him, clean and dark like winter before a storm. You didn't have to protect me, I whispered. Yes, he said quietly. I did. I turned back to him. Why? Finally, a crack in his armor, the faintest breath of emotion behind his steel-cut tone. Because they saw you, and if I don't act like you belong to me, they'll take that as permission. My throat tightened. I don't belong to anyone. He didn't smile, didn't argue, but his next words lodged in my chest like a secret. Then pretend you belong to me until this is over, and I'll make sure no one touches what isn't theirs. He walked away before I could answer, leaving me on the balcony with a lie between my lips and something dangerously close to a heartbeat pounding in my ears. I was supposed to be fake. He was supposed to ignore me. But Frankco Bertonelli wasn't ignoring anything, and the longer I stayed in his world, the more I started to realize he wasn't acting. And I didn't know how to survive being real to a man like him. I've been invisible most of my life. Not in the tragic nobody sees me way. No, I mean calculated invisibility. Intentional. A skill. Blend in. Disappear. Smile when required. Vanish when not. That's why they chose me, because I was easy to forget. Easy to place and erase. But Frankco Bertonelli wouldn't let me vanish. Not for a second. Tonight proved it. Tonight, he made a scene. And I realized too late. I wasn't a ghost anymore. I was something with blood and heat and weight. Something that could be wanted. And in his world, that made me dangerous. The fundraiser was a show. Fake smiles and power plays dressed up in velvet and champagne. I was dressed louder than usual. Red, backless, legs too long to be accidental. They wanted the world to look at me. So I smiled, touched his arm, laughed too loudly, played my part. Until a rival did exactly what he was supposed to do. Bertonelli's new toy, the man said, brushing past me at the silent auction table. Looks good in red. Does she do tricks too? I turned sharply, breath catching. Frankco was behind me in an instant. I didn't see his fist move, but I heard it. Bone against bone, hard and final. The man staggered back, blood on his lip. Silence dropped over the crowd. Frankco didn't look away from him. Next time you speak to her, you'll do it on your knees. The man laughed bitterly, spitting blood on the marble floor. For a decoy, she's got teeth. Careful. You're making her look real. She is real, Frankco said coldly. And you've been warned. The man walked away, wiping his mouth, and the moment shattered like glass. My heart was pounding. My palms were slick, and Frankco turned to me like I was the one out of control. You okay? He asked. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Not because I was afraid, because no one had ever stepped between me and a threat like that before, not without expecting something in return. And he hadn't even looked at me like I owed him. He just did it. Like it was nothing, like I was something that mattered. Hold on, before I let you know what happened next. Did he just defend me like he cares? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because I thought I was just a game to him. Now, let's get back to my mistake. He didn't say a word the entire drive home. I sat in the back seat of the black car, hands clasped tightly in my lap, heart still rattling against my ribs. The driver didn't glance at us. He didn't need to. He knew better. When we pulled up to the house, a fortress wrapped in glass and stone, Frankco stepped out first, then opened my door himself. No staff, no guards, just him. I need to speak with you, he said. My legs moved before my mouth did. The house was quiet, too quiet. Every sound echoed. I followed him to a private room on the second floor. Low light, sharp shadows, no cameras, just walls and him. He turned, faced me fully. You don't speak to men like that, he said. I flinched. I didn't say anything. You smiled, he cut in. You made yourself accessible. I was following orders. His jaw tensed, then stopped taking orders from anyone but me. The silence between us turned hot, heavy. I stepped back. This isn't part of the agreement. No, he said. It's not. Then what is this? He took a step toward me. You were never just a decoy. That's what they told you to keep you obedient. I swallowed hard. And what do you think I am? His eyes dropped to my mouth. How? Then back to my eyes. I think, he said, voice low and dangerous, you're a problem. My breath hitched. What kind of problem? The kind I don't want to solve. He didn't touch me, didn't kiss me, didn't break the rules, but I felt something shift in the air. The act was cracking, and I didn't know how to stop it. Later, in the guest room I was no longer sure was temporary. I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to remember why I ever said yes to this. Why I let them dress me up and place me in a war I didn't understand. Why I thought I could stay invisible in a world built on power, fear, and ownership. I wasn't real. That was the whole point. But when Frankco looked at me, corrected me, covered me, claimed me in front of killers, he looked like he didn't care if I was real or not. He cared that I was his, and somehow that was worse. I told myself I was still the decoy. I told myself his possessiveness was part of the plan. His touch, his temper, his overreactions, all scripted moves in a game I wasn't allowed to rewrite. But when he stepped onto that ballroom stage and reached for me, I knew. He wasn't following a script anymore. He was making a new one, and I was the centerpiece. The gala was a legacy event, hosted by the DeRossi family to showcase eligible women from old money dynasties. A bloodline auction without the paddles. I wasn't supposed to matter here. Frankco was meant to stand beside someone else tonight. A woman with breeding, posture, and a name that came with 3 trust funds and a private island. I was just the shield. A pretty distraction in the wrong dress. But he didn't even glance at her. He walked in with me on his arm. No warning. No explanation. And every camera in the room turned toward us like we were the only thing that existed. Why am I here? I whispered through my smile. He didn't look at me because they need to see you. I'm not the one they were expecting. Exactly. His hand was steady on my waist. Not forceful tonight. Firm. Certain. I hated how my pulse reacted to that. You're making a scene, I said softly. No, he replied. I'm making a statement. We walked to the edge of the central stage, where the heirs were meant to be introduced. Frankco, the Russian envoy's son, 2 Greek cousins with matching dimples and matching motives. The host raised his mic. And now Frankco Bertonelli with his escort. There was a pause. He didn't say the name written on the guest list. He said mine. Skylar. Just Skylar. No last name. No pretense. Like I was the only Skylar who mattered. Like I was enough. Whispers erupted. I felt them in my spine. But Frankco's hand stayed anchored at my waist as we stepped into the center spotlight. He leaned down, just enough for his mouth to brush my ear. They'll either believe it, he murmured, or they'll test it. I tried to keep my voice steady. And if they test it, then I'll remind them who she belongs to. My breath caught. She, not you. Like he was talking about someone else, someone he couldn't admit mattered, someone he'd guard anyway. The rest of the event blurred. Speeches, toasts, power plays disguised as polite conversations. Frankco didn't leave my side, not once, and when someone tried to ask if I was serious, if we were real, Frankco didn't let me answer. "She doesn't explain herself," he said. "Not to you." I wanted to melt into the floor, or maybe stay exactly where I was. I didn't know what scared me more. Later, back at the house, I finally spoke. "You humiliated her," I said quietly. Frankco loosened his tie but didn't look at me. "She'll survive. She was supposed to be your match. She was supposed to be quiet," he replied, "and she couldn't even manage that." I stepped toward him. "You don't get to use me to punish other people. I didn't. You put me in the middle of a war I didn't sign up for." Now he turned. Slowly. "You were already in it," he said. "You just didn't realize how visible you were until someone else got cut." I folded my arms. "You made me your statement." "No," he said. "I made you mine." My heart stopped. For half a second I thought I'd misheard. But then his eyes locked with mine. Gray, sharp, impossible to lie to. And I knew. I was in trouble because I wanted to be his, and I didn't know how to stop. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to slow my pulse, trying to remember the rules. This was fake. I was a decoy, expendable, replaceable. But when Frankco walked into that ballroom in front of allies and enemies alike, he chose me. Not because it was safe, not because it was smart, because something in him, dark, damaged, dangerous, decided I was his. And no matter how much I told myself it wasn't real, it felt like the most real thing I'd ever known. There's a moment, right before you run, when your body lies to you. It tells you to stay still, just a second longer, just until he looks at you again, just until your heart stops crashing against your ribs like it's trying to escape. That's what I felt the first time Frankco touched me, without needing a reason. It wasn't a command, it wasn't a cover, it wasn't a warning, it was quiet, deliberate, and for the first time in my life, I didn't want to run. The safe house wasn't in the city. It was half buried in a hilltop forest, guarded by night air and absolute silence. He didn't tell me why we were there, just that there had been movement, that I need to be invisible again, but not away from him. Never that, always at his side, always within reach. "You said I was a liability," I muttered as he closed the heavy steel door behind us. Frankco glanced at me. "I said you were a problem. That's not the same thing." I dropped my bag near the door. "You didn't have to bring me here." "Yes," he said, voice even. "I did." I stood there, arms crossed, waiting for him to look at me. He didn't. He was already moving, checking windows, loading weapons, securing every exit like it was second nature. It probably was. Frankco Bertonelli was built for war. I was built to be forgotten, so why wouldn't he let me go? The silence between us stretched long into the night. He made us tea. I didn't ask why. He didn't offer an answer. He just placed the cup in front of me and walked away, like caring for me was a reflex, something he didn't know how not to do. I sipped slowly, watching him move through the cabin like a storm trapped in a man, controlled, precise, always 2 steps ahead of danger. "Did you grow up like this?" I asked. His back was to me. "Like what?" "Watching every shadow, counting exits, sleeping next to a gun." He paused, then nodded once. "I was raised to understand what's mine and how to keep it." I swallowed. "And am I yours now?" He turned, the air shifted. He walked toward me slowly, deliberately. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a chess piece. I felt like gravity. His hand lifted, gentle, almost unsure, and brushed a piece of hair from my cheek. I didn't flinch. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. "I don't like questions with obvious answers," he said softly. My voice was barely there. "It's not obvious to me." He looked at me for a long, silent beat. Then his thumb touched the corner of my mouth. So lightly it felt like a memory instead of a moment. And suddenly, I was shaking. Not because I was scared, because something in me recognized him. Like he'd been written into the spaces between all the people who'd used me, replaced me, discarded me. He wasn't kind, he wasn't safe, but he saw me. And when he stepped closer, I didn't back away. His breath brushed mine. His palm found my waist, and I didn't stop him. The kiss didn't happen. Not really. His lips hovered near mine, so close I could taste the decision. But he didn't cross the line. Instead, he tilted his forehead to mine and stayed there. Silent, grounded, real. I let my eyes close, let my fingers curl into the fabric of his shirt, let myself want something that didn't feel borrowed. When I whispered, "I don't want to be fake anymore," he didn't pull away. He just nodded once, then stopped pretending. He didn't touch me again that night. Not like that. But when I curled up on the worn leather couch and let exhaustion take over, I felt his jacket cover my shoulders. And hours later, when I woke up in the dark, breath caught in a nightmare, he was sitting in the chair across from me, watching, waiting, like I was something worth guarding. I used to run at the first sign of closeness. It was safer, easier, cleaner. But tonight I didn't want to run. Because Frankco Bertonelli, cold, cruel, untouchable Frankco, held a part of me I didn't know I'd given away, and for once, I didn't want it back. They say power is cold, untouchable, impossible to love, and maybe that's true. But that night, in a chapel hidden behind a wall of his father's estate beneath gold saints and cracked candlelight, I saw the man who was never meant to be seen. Not the heir, not the weapon, not the empire, just Frankco. And it broke something in me I didn't know was still whole. The day after the safe house, he brought me to a place no one else knew. No guards, no cameras, no whispered orders through an earpiece, just silence, dust, and him. We drove in the same car we always did, windows tinted, secrets sealed inside, but the energy between us had shifted. He didn't speak on the way there, just rested his arm on the edge of my seat like it meant nothing. It didn't. It meant everything. We turned off the main road and up a winding path lined with cypress trees, thick and sharp like sentinels. "This is still your family's land?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "They don't use this part anymore." He parked beside an abandoned stone building wrapped in vines and silence. "A church?" I whispered. "A chapel," he said. "My mother's," I blinked. "She was religious?" "She was hopeful," he replied. "It wasn't the same thing." He pushed open the heavy wooden doors with one hand. Dust swirled in the amber light from the high stained glass windows. Inside it smelled like time, old wax, forgotten prayers. There were only 12 pews, one altar, and 100 ghosts. "Why here?" I asked softly. He didn't answer at first, just walked to the front and brushed his hand across the edge of the altar like he was remembering something he didn't want to. "I hated this place when I was a boy," he said. I sat in the back pew and watched him from a distance. "She made me sit through services," he continued. "Said it was the only hour in the week I wasn't being taught to kill something." My breath caught. "She taught me a different kind of silence here," he said. "The kind that isn't about fear." I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. He turned then, looked at me like I was the only other person alive, and slowly he walked down the aisle, not like a threat, not like a storm, like a man, one step, then another. And when he sat beside me, I felt the walls inside me start to splinter. "Hey, before I tell you what he did next, are you still with me? Tell me what made you click on this video. Put it in the comments. Now, let's get back to my downfall." "I used to come here after fights," he said, voice quiet, "before I was allowed to clean up the blood." I stared at him. "You were a child. I was never allowed to be a child. I wanted to reach for him. I didn't. But he must have felt it, because the next thing he did broke every rule he'd made between us. He took my hand, just like that. No order, no strategy, no cameras to see it, only us, and him holding my hand like it was something holy. I couldn't breathe. "I'm not what you think I am," I whispered. "I know exactly what you are," he said. "You're the only one in the room who doesn't need anything from me." "That's not true." He turned his head. "What do you need?" I looked away, to not be the placeholder this time. The silence after that was different, heavy, final, like I'd finally said the thing I was never meant to admit. And still, he didn't let go of my hand, not even when I stood, not even when I walked to the altar, not even when I whispered, "Do you ever wish it was someone else?" He followed me, stood behind me, close enough to burn. "No," he said. I turned. "Not even once?" "I don't wish," he said. "I decide." And then he did something that destroyed me. He bent his head and kissed my hand, not with fire, not with hunger, with reverence, like I was something real, something chosen, something no longer temporary. We didn't kiss. We didn't touch again. But that moment in the chapel became a before and after. Before I was a role, a body, a mask. After I was Skylar, and I was his. Even if he never said the words. There are some men who touch you with their hands. Frankco touched me with silence, with heat. With every warning he never said out loud. He never told me I was safe. He never told me I was his. But when he looked at me that night, like I was already claimed, my body stopped listening to logic. And for once, I didn't care if it was a mistake. Because it was ours. It started with thunder. A real storm, loud and sudden, rolled over the hills just after midnight. We were back at the safe house, power flickering, wind battering the glass windows, the rest of the world holding its breath. I stood barefoot in the kitchen, drinking cold tea from a chipped mug, trying to convince myself that the chapel didn't matter. That his hand on mine, his mouth on my skin, hadn't changed everything. I was lying to myself again. And I didn't even care. I turned, and there he was, leaning in the doorway like he'd been standing there for hours. Watching me, always watching. "I thought you were asleep," I whispered. "I was." "You came to check on me?" "No," he said. "I came to see if you'd run." I blinked. Would it matter if I did? His eyes darkened. Yes. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. I just stared at him, barefoot and breathless, waiting for the line to be crossed. He crossed it, slowly, step by step until he stood in front of me, close enough to steal the air, close enough to ruin me. "You're shaking," he said, voice low. "I'm fine." He reached for my face, not fast, not forceful, just careful. Just careful. Like I was something fragile. His fingers brushed my... "I'm not," I whispered. He leaned in, breath to breath, and finally, his mouth touched mine. It wasn't soft, it wasn't sweet, it was deliberate, the kiss of a man who never wanted to need anyone and hated that he needed me. I kissed him back, hard. Desperate, because I couldn't pretend anymore. Not when his hands were on my waist, pulling me in like he was starving. Not when my body was burning under his touch, not when every part of me finally felt chosen. He didn't rush, he didn't demand, he just kept touching me like I was his beginning and his end, like I was the answer to every war he'd ever fought. And when he lifted me onto the counter, breathing hard against my neck, I felt something fall out of me. Fear, doubt, loneliness, gone. All that remained was him. Frankco, my mistake, my salvation. We didn't speak, we didn't need to. It was breath and hands. And the sound of rain slamming the windows like a warning we were too far gone to hear. His mouth moved down my throat, his fingers tangled in my hair, and when I whispered his name just once like a confession, he exhaled like it hurt, like he couldn't survive me saying it again. So I did, again and again, until he was holding me like something he'd already lost. After, he didn't leave, he didn't pull away, he just wrapped his arms around me and held on. Strong. Still. Real. I pressed my face to his shoulder, listened to his heartbeat slow, and felt mine fall in sync. "You didn't have to stay," I whispered. "Yes, I did." His voice was sand and smoke. I didn't ask why, because I knew. He stayed because I wasn't the decoy anymore. I was the thing they'd try to take, and he'd already decided no one else would touch me again. He kissed my hair, just once, then rested his forehead against mine, and in the quiet, I felt it. The shift, the claim, not in words, not in promises, but in the way his arms locked around me like a vow and the way I let them. I used to run the second I felt wanted. I don't know who I am now, but if being his means burning, then let me burn. It was never supposed to matter. That's what they told me. That's what I told myself. They put me in the line of fire because no one would aim at a decoy. But they were wrong. Because the second Frankco looked at me like I wasn't fake, the entire game changed, and someone pulled the trigger. We were still in the safe house the morning it happened. His hands were in my hair. My legs were tangled with his. The sheets smelled like him and stormlight. I should have felt safe. Instead, I felt exposed. Because he hadn't said it, hadn't called me his, hadn't promised anything. But I felt it. In the way he watched me when I wasn't looking. In the way he touched me like I was a secret he didn't want to share. In the way he turned his phone face down the second it buzzed. I noticed. He didn't say a word. Just stood, shirtless and cold-eyed, reading the message, while pretending I wasn't already unraveling. "What happened?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, which meant everything. "Frankco," I said again, "tell me." He looked up, quiet, calculating, and then, like it was nothing, someone tried to breach the gate. I sat up too fast. "Here?" "No," he said. "Not here." He didn't finish the sentence. I did. "Then where?" His silence gave me the answer. Wherever it was, whoever it was, they hadn't been looking for him. They'd been looking for me. He moved. I tried to follow, tried to speak. "Pack a bag," he ordered. Nothing with your name on it. No tech, only what you need. I don't understand. You weren't supposed to be real, he snapped, but you are now. My breath caught. What does that mean? I asked. He looked at me then. Really looked. It means I made you a target. We didn't go back to the city. We went deeper into his family's land, past gates no one had used in decades. A bunker disguised as a vineyard cottage. It was too much, too fast, and I couldn't breathe. I slammed the bathroom door behind me and locked it. He didn't come after me. Not right away. But when he did, he didn't knock. He opened the door. Because of course he had a key. Because of course he didn't believe in space. Not when it came to me. You don't get to protect me from something I didn't ask for, I said, voice cracking. His jaw clenched. It's too late. I pushed past him. You should have let them keep looking at her, the girl you were supposed to choose. I never chose her. Then why did you choose me? I shouted. Why let them think I matter if it puts a target on my back? His voice dropped. Because I didn't care when it was a game. He stepped closer. But when someone touched you, when someone threatened you, I stopped playing. I swallowed hard. Why? I whispered. His eyes were fire and ruin. Because I can't watch them hurt you. Before I tell you what he did next, this is your warning. Things are about to get ulgy. All bets are off. Now, let's get back to the moment it broke. The car bomb wasn't meant to kill me. It was meant to make a point. They rigged a decoy vehicle, painted to match mine, same fake tags, same route. It detonated 3 miles from the safe house. Wrong target, wrong timing. But the message was clear. We know she matters. We know you care. We know where to find her next time. I saw the footage. Frankco didn't want me to, but I watched it anyway. Smoke, fire, metal torn like paper, and a note left behind, scrawled in Cyrillic on the undercarriage of the untouched car beside it. One word, placeholder. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Just sank to the ground, arms wrapped around my knees like they were the only thing holding me together. He stood there, silent, then crouched beside me. You said you didn't want to be the placeholder anymore, he murmured. I looked at him through tears. I'm still not the real thing. Yes, he said, voice sharp. You are. I shook my head. You didn't even say it. Say what? That I matter. His fingers gripped my chin, lifted my face. You think I'm burning down half of Italy because you're convenient? I choked out a bitter laugh. I think you're strategic. I think you want a reason to walk away. That shut me up, because he was right. That was always my backup plan. Run before it hurts. Run before he changes his mind. Run before I believe this is real. But there was no room to run anymore. Not when the world knew his weakness. And it was me. There's a truth they don't teach you when they train you to be disposable. The moment you matter to someone powerful, you stop being safe. And if that someone is Frankco Bertonelli, you stop being yours. I tried to leave at dawn. I waited until his breathing was steady, until the room went still, until the heat of his body next to mine wasn't enough to make me stay. Then I slipped out of bed and into my shoes like a thief. There wasn't much to take. Just the small bag I'd kept half-packed since the first day they gave me a fake name and a lie to wear like lipstick. I didn't write a note, didn't look back. I made it to the door, and then I heard his voice. You run now, he said softly. You'll never stop. I froze. Turned. He was sitting at the edge of the bed, shirtless, half-shadowed, eyes colder than I'd ever seen them. You were asleep, I whispered. I don't sleep when you're afraid. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said the only thing I could. I'm not built for this. He stood slowly, walked toward me like the predator he was. Quiet, calculating, sure. Yes, you are. I shook my head. I was a placeholder, a decoy. You said it yourself. They only noticed me because you let them. And they'll die for it. That's not what I want, I cried. I never wanted to be the reason you burn everything down. He stopped in front of me, and when he spoke, his voice wasn't loud. It was final. You think I care what you want more than what you are? I flinched, but he wasn't done. You're mine, Skylar. That's not a title you get to revoke just because you're scared. I didn't ask to be yours, I snapped. No, he said. But you didn't leave when you should have. You didn't say no when I kissed you. You didn't stop me from choosing you. His eyes burned into mine. So now you don't get to run just because you finally believe it's real. I stepped back. My back hit the door. I felt trapped, cornered, claimed, and I didn't know whether I wanted to fight or fall into him. "Let me go," I whispered. "No." "Frankco," he pressed his palm to the door beside my head, caging me in without touching me. "You think I'm going to lose you because you woke up afraid?" "I am afraid," I said. "Of this, of you." "I'm afraid too," he said, voice rough now. "I've never had anything they could take from me until now." I blinked. He exhaled, jaw tight. "And now that they know what matters to me, they won't stop." I swallowed hard. "Then you should have chosen her." "I don't want her." "You don't even like me," I exploded. "You glare at me, control me, lock me in your world like a possession." He leaned in. "Exactly," he said, "because I know how the world treats what isn't protected." I tried to hold the tears in. I really did. But they slipped down anyway, and for once he didn't freeze. He moved, gently, slowly. He cupped my face like it was something he'd never had permission to hold before, and wiped the tears with his thumbs like they offended him. "I'm not good at this," he said. "No," I breathed. "You're really not." His mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. "Don't ask me to be soft," he said. "I can't. Not for you. Not for anyone." "I'm not asking for soft," I whispered. "I'm asking for truth." His forehead dropped to mine, and when he spoke, it was more breath than voice. "The truth is, I'd burn down every name on your original guest list to keep them from touching you again." I let out a shaky laugh. "That's not romantic. It's the closest I get." He stepped back just enough to look at me. Then he unlocked the door behind me. It clicked open. Cool morning air spilled in. "Go if you want to," he said. "But know this," I looked up and his voice dropped like a promise. "If you leave me now, I'll come find you. I won't ask next time." I stood there for a long time, bag in hand, heart in pieces. And then I dropped the bag. He didn't smile, but his hand found my waist, and this time I didn't shake, because I finally understood something no one had ever told me. You can be claimed without being erased. You can be protected without being owned. And Frankco? He'd never let go of his crown. But he was giving me a place beside it, and that was more than I ever thought I'd be allowed to have. It's one thing to be scared of losing someone, it's another to realize they were never meant to survive in your world, and it's a third thing entirely, unholy, unbearable, to know they weren't supposed to be alive in the first place. Because the truth, that bomb wasn't a warning, it wasn't a scare tactic, it wasn't a mistake, it was a message. I was never the placeholder, I was the intended hit. Frankco found out 3 hours too late. I found out before him, because I saw the security footage on a feed I wasn't supposed to have access to while he was upstairs taking a call. The car that exploded wasn't meant to confuse anyone. It was the right make, right model, wrong location by design. They'd tagged it with a GPS pin originally assigned to my vehicle. Switched them, on purpose, and the one person who took the car that day wasn't me. It was Lena, his cousin, his blood. She drove the decoy car, because I left my keys on the counter and she was running out to grab food. They meant to kill me. They killed her instead. When Frankco came downstairs and saw me staring at the frozen footage, he didn't speak. He didn't move. He just watched my face. And that was how he knew. "I was supposed to be in that car," I said quietly. He didn't deny it, didn't try to soften it. He just sat beside me, close, unmoving, and waited. "I didn't even know her," I whispered. "Not really. She was kind. She smiled at me. She asked if I wanted coffee." My voice cracked. "She died because I was too lazy to make my own breakfast." His jaw locked. "Don't do that." I looked at him, tears burning. "Don't what?" "Don't carry the bullet just because someone else pulled the trigger." I hated how calm he was, how steady, how cold. "She's dead, Frankco. She was part of your family." "I don't lose people by accident," he said. That stopped me. I stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means I let people die when they become threats." My blood ran cold. "What am I?" I asked. He turned, slowly. "You're the only person I've ever tried to keep alive after they became a threat." I broke, not physically, not out loud, but something in me cracked wide open, because I couldn't live in this space anymore, between temporary and irreplaceable, between protected and possessed, between chosen and used. "I'm tired," I whispered. He didn't respond. "I've always been tired," I said, eyes wet now, "of being the one they pick until the real choice shows up." Still, he didn't speak, so I kept going. "I'm not the one who's remembered. I'm not the one anyone stays for. I'm the stand-in, the backup plan, the arm candy they throw in front of the gun." I stood, tears falling fast now. You can't fix that with power, or money, or guards, or declarations in front of your empire. You can't make me believe I matter just because you decided I do. He rose too, silent, and then he said the one thing I never thought I'd hear. You're right. I froze. My voice broke. What? You're right, he said again. I can't fix what they broke in you. I turned away, chest heaving. Then why are you still here? Because I'll kill every single person who made you believe you were forgettable. I choked. It wasn't what I expected. Not a romantic line, not a confession, not a promise of love, just war, and the quiet fury of a man who had already decided I was worth the blood. He came closer, wrapped his arms around me from behind, and I let him, because for once, I didn't feel like I had to earn it. I didn't love her, he murmured against my neck, but she was family. I'll bury them for her. I nodded slowly. And you, he added, you don't owe anyone a death. Not hers, not mine, not yours. I turned in his arms, looked up, and asked the question I'd been afraid of since the night we met. If I leave tomorrow, will you let me go? He studied me, eyes sharp, voice steady. No, I swallowed. But I'll follow, he said. And when I catch you, he brushed my hair behind my ear, slow and devastating. You'll know I never saw you as temporary. That night, I slept in his arms. No running, no pretending, no guilt, because the truth didn't need a label. He'd killed for me. He'd bleed for me. And when the final war came, he'd crown me with fire or ashes. But I'd never be a placeholder again. There are moments in your life you never get to forget. Not because you want to remember, but because they burn into you. This was one of them. The moment Frankco Bertonelli chose me. Not in private, not with whispered promises or hidden touches, but in front of everyone who ever thought I could be replaced. I didn't know where he was taking me at first, only that he'd handed me a black dress and a warning. Wear this, don't speak unless I tell you to. And if anyone touches you, they won't, I said. He nodded once. That's right. The air was different that night. He wasn't angry, he wasn't calculating, he was resolved, the kind of cold that only comes before something dies. Or something lives. The meeting was being held on neutral ground, 3 Mafia families, one agenda, a ceasefire. They weren't expecting him to bring company, especially not me. The room was stone and silence. Men in tailored suits flanked by muscle and eyes that had seen too much. The moment we stepped inside, all conversation stopped. Then came the whispers, the decoy. She's still alive? He brought her here? I felt their eyes, felt their judgment, and then I felt his hand, low on my back, claiming, present, his anchor. He led me to the front of the room, didn't sit, didn't wait, he just spoke. She stays. 3 words, no context, no invitation for questions, just a command. Someone laughed, a dry, older voice, Russian accent. We thought she was a joke, a pretty distraction. Frankco didn't look at him. I don't do jokes. Another voice. Is this your wife now? He turned then, slowly. She's mine. That's all you need to know. The words hit harder than I expected, not because of the possessiveness, I was used to that, but because this time he didn't say it to hurt. He said it to protect, to warn. I tried to stay quiet, invisible. But I wasn't invisible anymore. I hadn't been for a long time. So when the man beside me leaned a little too close, when his hand brushed my wrist as if testing boundaries, Frankco was on him in an instant. Not violent, not loud, just lethal. He reached across the table, took the man's hand, and bent one finger back. Not enough to break, just enough to remind him. Touching me wasn't free. She's not decoration, he said, voice ice. She's a line. Cross it again, and you'll see what happens when I stop playing diplomat. The man yanked his hand back, face pale. No one spoke after that. After the meeting, as the room cleared and alliances shifted behind nods and half smiles, Frankco led me to a side corridor. He didn't speak until the door shut behind us. Then he turned and looked at me like I was the only thing left standing in his world. You shouldn't be here, he said. Then why bring me? His mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, not quite pain, because I wanted them to see the one thing I'd kill for. Before I tell you what he did next, thank you for staying. I didn't get to tell anyone this back then. Now, let's finish the mess I started. He reached for me, hands on my waist, pulled me in, and for the first time I didn't feel like a decoy. I felt like the center, the reason, the choice. You're not the placeholder anymore, he said quietly. I never was, I whispered, and he nodded. Because we both knew. I'd always mattered. Even before he said it, even before he admitted it to himself. He just needed the world to see it too. He didn't kiss me then. He didn't have to. The war was still coming. Enemies still circled, but I stood taller now because I was no longer a shield. I was the line in the sand, and he had drawn it in blood. They still call me the decoy. Whispers in hallways, shadows in power circles. She was never supposed to last. She was just the distraction. She's not his equal. And maybe they're right. I don't want to be his equal. Because Frankco Bertonelli doesn't need an equal. He needs the one person in the room who isn't afraid of him. And that's me. It's been 11 months since the night he walked me back into that chapel. Since the war that almost cost us everything. Since I stopped trying to be forgettable. We rebuilt slowly. Not the empire. That was always solid, always brutal and unshaken. No. We rebuilt. The kind of quiet trust no one expects in our world. The kind of intimacy that lives in unfinished sentences and silent glances across bulletproof cars. I still don't wear a ring, and I don't need one. Because every time he says my name in a room full of people who would rather I didn't exist, it feels louder than a vow. They tried to test us. Of course they did. 3 families, 4 betrayals, and 1 assassination attempt later, the message is clear. She's not the decoy. She's the fuse. And if you light her up, he'll detonate everything you love. They don't understand us, and they never will. Because Frankco doesn't bring me flowers. He brings me silence when this is too much. He doesn't say I love you. He tells me things no one else is allowed to hear. He doesn't protect me with walls. He protects me with truth, no matter how violent, no matter how brutal. And in return, I don't ask him to be soft. I don't ask him to be safe. I don't ask him to change. I just ask him to keep choosing me. And he does. Every damn day. Tonight, we're standing in front of the city again. Same balcony, same skyline, but everything's different. Because I'm not a guest here. I'm not temporary. I'm not the girl with the borrowed name. I'm his. And this time, when I look out at the kingdom he rules, I see my name written across it. Not as a queen, not as a decoy, not even as the woman who changed him. Because I didn't. He still rules with ice in his veins. He still never flinches, still walks through fire like it owes him an apology. But now, he lets me stand next to him. No leash, no script, no mask, just us. He steps up behind me, wraps his arm around my waist. I feel the heat of him, the steadiness, the power. But it's the quiet that undoes me. Because the most dangerous man in this city only lets his guard down for me. I should have killed them all for calling you a placeholder, he murmurs. I smile, slow. You almost did. He leans in, mouth at my ear. Still might. I laugh. Soft. Real. I don't need that, I say. I just need this. I turn in his arms, press my hand to his chest, look up into the storm I chose. I don't need a crown, I whisper. Just your hand when it matters. His eyes go dark, sharp, sure. You have it, he says. You always have it. We don't need confessions. We don't need forgiveness. We don't need soft. We need true. And that's what we are. Not perfect. Not peaceful. But permanent. Let them call me the decoy. Let them think I was meant to disappear. I know the truth. He never gave up his crown, but he carved a space beside it and wrote my name there with fire. That's it. That's the story of the decoy who wasn't. Of the girl no one chose until the man with blood on his hands chose her loudly. He didn't change for me. He never gave up his crown, but he looked at me like I was real. And that was enough. Thank you for listening. If you felt this in your chest, I hope you stay for the next one.